Welcome, viewer. Imagine your mum putting on a helmet, grabbing a poleaxe and storming a manor house like she's in a budget episode of Game of Thrones. All while asking your dad to send some almonds and sugar. That, my dear viewer, is Margaret Paston. And if you've never heard of her, buckle up, because her life was a crossbow-loaded blend of middle-class ambition, medieval sarcasm, and unrelenting domestic drama. Margaret Paston was the wife of a lawyer and landowner in 15th century England. But don't let the wife bit fool you. When her husband was away, which was often, Margaret ran the family's business affairs, household legal battles, and, occasionally, their private army. Yes, army. When the family got evicted from their manor at Gresham, Margaret didn't mope about like a Jane Austen heroine. She wrote to her husband requesting crossbows, longbows, poleaxes, and armour. Oh, and while he was at it, could he pop in a pound of almonds and some cloth for the kids' new gowns? It's like mixing a siege with a Sainsbury's shopping list. In fact, the Paston letters, hundreds of them written over decades, reveal something quite striking. Violence wasn't an interruption of daily life in the 15th century. It was daily life. Margaret lived in a world where servants wore body armour. Husbands threatened to cut off their wives' noses for suspected infidelity, and flattery often came with a bill. And the response from society? They'd shrug. Just another Thursday. Now you might assume people back then were emotionally numb brutes. But the Paston letters say otherwise. These people were dramatic, gossipy, and very clever with words. One servant is described as, "He is not secure in the bite." Translation, he can't keep his damn mouth shut. They insulted each other in Latin. Apologies if mispronounced. Singuli cacant uno anno. Which means, and I quote, "They shit out of the same arse." That's not Shakespeare. That's shade. Humour and resignation were survival tools. A Paston son catching a cold wrote, "I am better armed for the cold than for war." Another ends a gloomy letter with, "Well, if we're undone, so be it," which is medieval for sod it. And now a medieval rags-to-riches story. Margaret's father-in-law, Clement Paston, started off married to a bondwoman, basically medieval working class. They had one farm. But through saving, borrowing and sheer hustle, Clement's son William went to Eton, became a lawyer, married into the gentry and rose all the way to Justice of the Common Pleas. His children, Knights of the Bloody Shire, 3 generations from peasant to parliament. Today it takes a miracle and a mortgage broker. Back then, it just took money, Latin and low-level warfare. What makes the Paston letters so electrifying is that you hear the people. Arguments, sighs, desperation, sass. It's basically the Real Housewives of Norwich. And while families were threatening to mutilate each other, the economy was booming. Post-Black Death, with fewer people around, everyone suddenly had land, jobs and a bit of spare cash. The result? Trade exploded. Imports included satin, razors, wine, leopard skin cloaks and monkeys. Yes, monkeys. One rhyme tells us, hops and turkeys, carps and beer came into England all in a year. Beer? Once imported? By 1490? We're exporting it? But nothing, not even monkeys, matched the reign of wool. Raw wool exports dipped, but English cloth took off like a TikTok trend. It made up 80% of exports, from the Cotswolds to Venice, from Yorkshire to Novgorod. Everyone played a role. Women combed and spun, weavers wove, fullers dyed, shearmen finished. Even the Lord Chancellor sat on a woolsack in Parliament. That's how serious it was. But here comes the price. More sheep meant less space for people. Villages were evicted, razed and turned into sheep runs. In Warwickshire alone, over 100 villages vanished. Historian John Roos wrote, "As Christ wept over Jerusalem, so do we weep over the destruction of our own times." Translation, nice place, shame you bulldozed it for sheep. Thus enters the sturdy beggar, a term born in the 1470s, and a polite way of saying homeless, jobless and likely nicking your turnips. So what did we learn today? We learned that Margaret Paston was the kind of woman who could organise a medieval SWAT team, And remember to ask for baking supplies. That 15th century England was one part violent soap opera, one part Etsy craft fair. The people spoke better Latin when insulting each other than most of us manage ordering coffee. That wool, yes, wool, was the engine of the economy, and your village could be demolished if sheep needed the space. And that history isn't just kings, crowns and cathedrals. It's in the letters, gossip, sass and sarcasm of everyday people who were far more like us than we might care to admit. It was also hilarious, heartbreaking, ambitious and painfully real. Through the Paston letters, we don't just read history, we hear it. The gossip, the grit, the groaning pregnant wife asking for cinnamon, the sword in one hand and a shopping list in the other. And that perhaps is the most medieval thing of all. Comment below if you found the Easter egg. Follow for more history drenched in sarcasm and dread.